Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sadashiva Samadambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Padyantam Vande Guru Paramparam Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavadpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Shri Medha Dakshinamurti Swamine Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Namaste once again to all of you. So we are seeing the Vyashti Vichara, analysis of the individual, the microcosm. And in that, the author enumerated 11 aspects of this. Shariratrayam, Panchakoshaha, and Avastatrayam. And in that, we are seeing now the first part, which is Shariratrayam, the three bodies. Stula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, and Karana Shariram. Stula Shariram we have seen. Now, Sukshma Shariram is what we are seeing. And in Sukshma Shariram also, he enumerated 17 elements or 17 aspects of this Sukshma Shariram. Pancha Jnanendriyani, Pancha Karmendriyani, Pancha Pranadayaha, Manaha, and Buddhi. 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 2, 17, he enumerated. And in that, we have already completed Pancha Jnanendriyaha. Now we are looking at Pancha Karmendriyaha, organs of action, or to put it correctly, the faculties of action. Because as I told you, we have to be careful when understanding organs. When we say, we are actually referring to the faculties and not the external organs which are visible to us. These faculties of this, either whether it is the sense faculties or it is action faculties, all these are invisible. We cannot see them, but we can see their effect. And these faculties, they act through the organs which we can see. So like for example, I told you the sight faculty, it functions through the eyes. Eyes are called golaka. Unless the physical eyes are backed by the faculty of sight, these eyes are useless. They can't see. They can still be there, like to, whatever you call it. But they can't see unless they are backed by the faculty of sight. So similarly, in Karmendriyas also, in the organs of action also, whenever we are talking about an organ of action, we have to remember that we are referring to the faculty, the invisible, the subtle power which is there behind every organ. So the 5 organs that I have already read that sentence of the Acharya from the text, I won't repeat it. So let us see what are the organs. And he is following a particular methodology, which is, first of all, he explains what the organs are, names of the organs. Then who are the devatas, the name of the power behind those organs. And also the subject matter, what those individual organs handle, or they are, which subject matter they are related to, right? So first he enumerates the 5 organs. Vak, he says. Vak is the organ of speech. And it does not refer to the tongue, which is the physical entity for speech, but the power which is behind the tongue, which enables the tongue to speak. That is the faculty we are referring here. Right? Tongue, if you ask, it will call golakam, not a indriyam. That we must, between golakam and indriyam, we must remember the distinction. So this invisible power is called Vak Shaktihi. Vak Indriyaha, that is the organ of speech. The second one, he says Panihi. Panihi means hands, right? And because of which we are able to hold the objects. We are able to hold, right, with the hands. We always use our hands to do all our things, whatever we want to do. The outputs that we want to give, serve people, do namaskar with the hand. So again, it is not the physical hand, but the power behind the hand, which makes this physical hand perform that, the action of handling things, picking, holding things. That is what we are referring to, Panihi, right? In fact, the very word handle comes from the word hand. That which handles are the hands. Okay. The third is Padaha. Padaha, you all know, is foot. I mean, Padaha, feet or leg or whatever you can call. It is the pair of legs which are meant for what? Movement. From traversing from one place to another, from going from point A to point B. This Padaha is what enables us all our locomotion, in the world. We have mobility because of this Padaha. So power of movement or power of locomotion is the legs, Padaha. Then Payuhu. Payuhu is that internal organ which removes all waste from our body. Now, the waste does not necessarily mean only, passing the stool or urine. Even through the skin also, when we sweat, lot of waste material from the body are removed. So this is the function or the faculty of waste removal. Because our body is like a very big factory, right? It takes in a lot of raw material, processes them, absorbs whatever is to be absorbed for the growth of the body, for the sustenance of the body, all vitamins, minerals, whatever is there. And then it also produces a lot of waste material which is not required by the body. And like in any factory, this waste has to be disposed of continuously. Very important function. Because if the waste accumulates, it will create a serious issue for the body's survival itself. So this Payuhu is a very important function for our body, which is waste removal, right? Evacuation of all waste material from the body. So it is a waste removing organ, Payuhu. Both solid waste as well as liquid waste to be removed. Then the last one is Upastaha. Upastaha is the organ of reproduction, because of which every living being reproduces, perpetuates its own species, its parampara, lineage. Again, very, very important for the sustenance and continuation of this entire cosmos. This reproductive capacity is what makes this world keeps on going, rather, isn't it? So again, the reference here is to the faculty, not to the physical organs, relating to this upastha, reproductive organ, right? So it's an invisible faculty. Indriyam is what we have to Remember. So all the 5 indriyas have been enumerated now. Next, he comes to the corresponding devatas. He says, Vacho devata vannihi. Vannihi means Agnihi, fire. Another name for Agni. So it is the name of that devata which is reference to the total power of communication. And communication is a very, very important faculty. It is because that many times we fail to communicate properly. We get into all problems. And also, at the same time, we are able to keep our mouth shut, unable to keep our mouth shut also. On the one hand, we cannot keep quiet. On the other hand, we are not able to communicate properly, and which gets us into all sorts of problems, whether it is be friends or in the office or even amongst relatives within the family, within a house itself. These problems come because of this faculty of communication. So it needs to be handled properly, and we need to pray to Agni Devata in order to bless us, that whatever this tongue speaks, the faculty of speech which is expressed through the tongue, let that always be sweet to everybody. Let it not create any kind of discomfort or problem either for me or for anybody else. This is the prayer we will have to continuously do to Agni Devata. Right? And this communication gap, generation gap and all we talk about, it's all relating to this communication through this tongue. Right? So that is Vak Devata, Agnihi. Right? It's also called Saraswati also. So Vak Devi we call it. Right? These are various names given in the Shastras in different texts. Right? Vak Devi, Vak Devata, Agnihi, Vannihi, Saraswati. All these are names. Even Brihaspati also is a name given. Because what happens in our life is most of us we pray to Lakshmi Devi. Because there is only one thing we are behind in our life. More and more wealth and more material benefits for us. Isn't it? But if we want to avoid communication gap totally, then we have to pray to Lord. This Devi Saraswati. That is very, very important. So Vak Devi, we have to pray more and more. And as I said, another name for Saraswati, Brihaspati. Brihaha means walk. This speech, Brihaha. Right? Brihaspati means the Devata of walk. So Agni Devata, Saraswati Devata, Brihaspati Devata, all of them represent the power of speech. Then he says, Hastayor Indraha. Indra Devata. Indra Devata is supposed to be very powerful. Lot of power, strength, is represented by Indra Devata. The total power of handling. Right? So that is Indra Devata. Because if we look at our own self, we have actually very limited power only. Limited power. At present, we are able to carry our own weight. Maybe small children and all, we can carry their weight also when we are at a particular advantageous age. But as we age, they say, what is the difference between a young person and a middle-aged person? A young person can carry his weight and also probably somebody else's weight. One more person. If a middle-aged person who's crossed 45, 50 around, if he is able to carry his own weight, that is a great achievement. Because at the next stage, that is also going to be a challenge. You will not be able to carry your own weight. You will require one third hand to carry your weight. These two hands will not be able to, carry your weight. So that is another important thing, Hastayo Indraha. So even to get up from the floor, sit on the floor and all, 3 hands will be required. Somebody else will have to help you to get up from the floor. Even from the bed, some people, when you get older and older. So that is the Indra Devata we have to pray, because the power in the hands comes from Indra Devata. The next is Padayoho Vishnu. That is our locomotion. Vishnu Devata. Vishnu is the Devata for the power of locomotion. And especially Vishnu Devata in the form of Vamana Avatara. Trivikram or Vamana Avatara is considered to be the presiding deity for movement, because in his Trivikrama Avatara, he showed the power of movement. Most of us have heard the story of Mahabali, which comes in Bhagavata Purana. I'm not going to go into the story of Mahabali. Those who are interested can refer to Google Mahabali and then you will get the story of Mahabali. But the point is, the power of locomotion was expressed in that avatara of Vishnu, Trivikram. Okay. So power of movement, Lord Vishnu is the Devata for that. Then next is Payohu Mrityuhu. Here Mrityuhu refers to Yamadharma Raja, the presiding deity of cleansing the residue, removal of all wastages, is Mrityuhu, Yamadharma Raja. So, in the context of our body, only when the waste is removed can we actually eat afresh, isn't it? It's very important function. For 2 days, if the waste is not removed, there will be a sort of a partial shutdown. No taste in the tongue. You won't be able to eat more. All these problems we will face. So the waste removal is a very important function for the overall health of the body from a body's perspective, individual perspective. From a total perspective, from a macro perspective, this waste removal in the form of, removing the old people from this world. Also others also, depending upon their own karmas. That job is also very important, because unless they are removed, the new generation cannot come. Or even if they come, it will be too much overcrowding will be there. After all, when one gets very old, what is left is only one shell, empty shell of this body. No use to anybody, no use to one's own self also. Getting all sorts of diseases, all sorts of problems. Probably only used to all these pharmacies. Go on buying so many medicines. Instead of diet, you have replaced food with medicines. So those kind of forceful living, as we can call it, have to be removed from this earth. So that action or that activity is performed by what we call a devata, a power, which is a Yamadharma Raja, waste removing power from the world. That is what it is. Power of evacuation, you can call it. Evacuation from the world. So, removal of unwanted, things, then paving the way for fresh creation. Forget our human beings, even other living beings like trees and all that. They have to shed their old leaves, and then only new leaves will grow. So this is all part of the power of evacuation. Continuously cleaning this entire world of all these waste material, and then making room for a new creation. But any destruction in the universe is a stepping stone for the construction. So destruction is always, in the law of nature, destruction is always constructive destruction. It is not destruction for the sake of destruction. It is destruction for the sake of making room for new construction, new things to come, new things to be born. That is how the nature functions. And this whole department is with Mrityu. Literally, Mrityu means death. But here the reference is to Yama Dharma Raja. And whenever we are taking the name of Yama Dharma Raja, the word dharma is very, very important. So Yama Dharma Raja, you can expect him to always function within the four corners of dharma. He will never do anything adharmic. So that is the function. He will not do anything unjust, unfair activity. He will not do. Only when the time comes for the waste, when the body becomes waste, he will remove it. That's, and that is again determined when each body is going to become a waste. Right? Of course, our problem is that nobody wants to die. Everybody, we will all be very philosophical. Oh yeah, death is something, we cannot avoid and all that. But actually, when we are facing the problem, we'll find that people have a great resistance. In fact, the funny part is, we know death is a reality. We see people dying everywhere, whether it is of corona or any reason. I mean, death will come in one form or the other. But somehow when we see other people dying, we have a feeling that we will never die. Or that people around us will always, our parents, our siblings, they will always be alive, eternally alive. That's some sort of a funny feeling we have. Only when we face, we will see the reality. It can happen to anybody. But we refuse to accept it as long as this life is going on smoothly. It's an unfair expectation. And that is why Lord Yamaraja is being Dharma Raja. He will never allow us to, fulfill this unfair expectation. And the fifth and the last one is Upastasya Prajapati. The presiding deity of Upastha, the organ of reproduction, generation or creation, whatever you can call, is Prajapati. Prajapati here means Brahmaji, the four-headed Devata. Brahmaji, who has got four heads. Because Brahmaji is worshipped as a creator. And the total power of creation, the entire universe, the total power of creation rests with that Brahmaji. And that power alone manifests in every living being through this reproductive power. So the reproductive power which we have is actually a minuscule of the total power of Brahmaji. That is why he says the Devata for Upastha. Again, Upastha means organ, not the physical organ of reproduction, but the faculty of reproduction. That again we must remember. So that power of that faculty of reproduction, the Devata, is Brahmaji, Prajapati, another name for Brahmaji. And the four heads, it is said in the Shastra, they stand for the four Vedas. And the four Vedas stand for total knowledge, omniscience. So because any creator needs to have full knowledge of what is to be created, how it is to be created, why it is to be created, isn't it? Even as a person who creates a pot from clay, he needs to have a knowledge how to do that. If we don't have the knowledge, we can't create a pot. And the knowledge is sometimes very subtle knowledge. When he's actually creating a pot from clay in that, whatever that goes round and round and round. I don't know the name of that. He needs to have the right amount of knowledge to apply as that right amount of pressure on the clay in order to give it a shape. Similarly, he will actually, if it is a pot, then a hollow pot inside, he will actually put his hand very lightly, and this thing will be, wheel will be, potter's wheel will be running, and then he will actually put his hand in such a way, he will actually make space inside the pot. All this requires a lot of knowledge and skill. Any creator requires this. And that is why we say that the Vedas contain all knowledge, and all the Vedas are with Brahmaji, because Ishvara created this world and gave the Vedas to Brahmaji to spread it to the world. Then Brahmaji took the responsibility of the creation and also for spreading the Vedas to the world. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, Adi Shankara's Bhashyam, he starts with this entire creation process. Beautiful Bhashyam, Upodghata Bhashyam. So he actually traces how this entire creation was done, how Brahmaji, how he created the various rishis, and then which part of Vedas he propagated through whom. Very detailed description Adi Shankara gives with that. Okay. So Upastasya Devata Prajapatihi, right? So he stands for the total potential of creation. So that is why the 4 Vedas and all that. So iti karmendriya devataha. These are the devatas relating to the organs of action. So now what remains is the topic. In this topic is the discussion on the functions of each one of these organs. Is this karmendriyas? One. So he said, Vacho Vishayaha Bhashanam. Doesn't need much explanation. I have already, explained enough. Vishayaha means what? Subject matter. Function. The function of the organ of speech is what? Bhashanam, speech. Payoho Vishayaha Vastu Grahanam. Panyoho Vishaya. Panyoho means hands. Function of hands is what? Vastu Grahana. Holding the objects, handling the objects. Vastu means objects or things. Grahanam means handling. Padayoho Vishayaha Gamanam. That is Padayoho means the legs. Gamanam means locomotion. Going from point A to point B. Feet, movement. The function of feet is movement. Payoho Vishayaha Malatyagaha. Malatyagaha means what? Elimination or discharge of the waste material. Waste. Malam means waste in our body, right? So the waste is discharged through, sweat, excretion, urination, all these things, liquid, solid, waste, all are removed from the body, and the function of that is payoho, waste removal, right? Upastasya Vishayaha Anandaha. So the function of the organ of reproduction is reproduction. Means what? Begetting children, becoming parents, raising the status, one's status into parenthood. And scriptures point out that this parenthood, when we get, is actually a state of ananda. Most of the people, just see how happy they are when they're married couple I'm talking about, when they get their first child. In fact, mothers are prepared to undergo that pain. Maybe few mothers these days have started rebelling against that. But traditionally, they are prepared to undergo the kind of pain the childbirth involves Why? For that ananda of getting the child. Even the father, when the child is first, the nurse or the medical person gives the child to the father's hand, you must see the ananda for him. As if the whole world he has got. Nothing more he will wish us in that moment. Everything I wanted in my life, I have got in the form of this child. Why? Because of the power of reproduction. In fact, the parents see themselves in the children. And that is why many times, many parents, they try to live their dreams through their children, which is again, go back to first one, communication gap business. Then they have a fight in the family. So all these things are there, but what the point I'm saying is that according to the Shastras, this Ananda is experiential Ananda. We are not talking about the Vedanta Ananda, Satchidananda, Swarupa Ananda, we are not talking about. But it creates Ananda, Upastasya Vishaya Ananda. So, what the scriptures are looking at is function not merely as a function. What is the result of that function? So, the reproductive organ gives happiness, Ananda. That is what it is, right? That's why I said children actually represent immortality. That's why people want children. They live through the children. They think that after their body goes, children will continue, lineage will continue, our name will continue. That is why, even naming conventions in some of the families, in South India and all that, they will always, the son's son will be named the same as the son's father. That is, alternate generations will have the same names. So that the name is also perpetuated throughout. They don't want to, the death is, unimaginable thing for people. Don't want to be removed. Some form or the other, I want to continue to survive. Right? So that is what it is. Perpetuation of the species is upastha. So this completes the description of 10 out of 17 organs. And we find that there is a similar description of these pancha pranas, the 5 pranas, that is missing in the original text. If you look at the text, author has actually listed 17. He explains the 5 jnanendriyas and 5 karmendriyas, but the text doesn't contain the similar explanation of pancha pranas. So that is one, I would say, drawback or something which is missing in the text. But what we will do is we will study them briefly based on the scriptures, even though it is not there. And on the same basis, rather, we will see the functions and the devatas and all that, right? So this 5-fold pranic system, which we call, it is actually the physiological system that we have in our body, which is a subtle system. We can't see the system, but it works. We can see it working, but we can't see the system itself. What is driving the power which drives these physiological systems, we can't see. It's more or less similar to what we see in modern biology also, which I have mentioned, I think, 1 or 2 classes earlier. So here, in the Shastric approach, these physiological systems are divided into 5, and they are given the name Pranaha, Apanaha, Vyanaha, Samanaha, and Udanaha. These are the 5 ones. Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana, Samana. So basically, the last one has been interchanged for ease of understanding sequential. Swami Paramathananda uses this model. I'm just sharing with you what model he uses. Pranaha basically is the respiratory system. The external air is breathed in, pranavayu. The energy of oxygen, whatever the external air brings along with it, which is very much vital for our living, our life, that is absorbed by the body, and then the wastage air is exhaled. This is what happens. That's why when we are doing this pranayama and all that, the yoga teachers say that when you inhale maybe 4 counts, hold the breath for 8 counts, and when you release, exhale, you should exhale very slowly up to 12 counts. Why? Because when you inhale, take in as much air as possible, hold them so that the body organs, the respiratory organs are able to extract whatever is to be extracted in a more efficient, most efficient manner. Whether it is oxygen, I don't know the details, but oxygen is one main element rather which is required for our entire body. Without that, we can't survive. And that is actually, in the lungs, that is through the lungs walls and all, it is absorbed. And when you exhale, do it so slowly so that whatever is little bit left and all that are also absorbed. Don't push the air out like that. And that's why in pranayama they advise this, so that body remains very healthy and is able to absorb all the important elements which is there in the air, which is very much required for our survival. Healthy survival, I would say. Not just survival, healthy survival. And that is why, I have actually experimented this. If you have, suppose, a headache, instead of taking some pills and all that, you sit, do deep breathing for 5 minutes. I have found this to be very efficacious. When you do deep breathing for 5 minutes, totally absorbed in actually visualizing the air going in through your nostril, filling up your whole abdomen, and that you have to be, it's a very conscious breathing. Huh? You have to follow it, no other thought in your mind, only the thought of the air going in, filling your entire abdomen, and then you hold that air for a few, that few counts, and then slowly breathe out. Do this for 5 minutes, 7 minutes, your headache will be gone. Similarly, stomach upset, I have experimented this and found it to be very, very efficacious. If you have got, some heaviness in the stomach, or you feel, some uneasiness, do this pranayama. But it has to be very conscious. You have to just inhale, hold, breathe out. Very slowly. When you don't get sleep at night, especially old people, this is advised in Yoga Shastra. You do this deep breathing exercise, you will immediately, maybe 5 minutes, 7 minutes, you will get very nice sleep. So a lot of problems that we face physically in our body is because of the malfunctioning of this respiratory system. These are all the secrets that we have to observe. How we can, actually live along with nature. God has created such a beautiful body for us. And He has created this with the 5 elements as we saw earlier, The Pancha Mahabhutas. And air is a very vital thing in that. If we know how to use the Pancha Mahabhutas in our body, which probably people in Satyuga and the Krita Yuga and Treta Yuga knew, Kali Yuga, we have lost that knowledge. If we know that, we can live as long as possible according to our karma, but that life will be a healthy life, normal life. When you see people who are 100 years old, still going about doing their things on their own, we are amazed how this person at 100 years, he is doing everything, whereas another person at 60, 65 years, he is struggling to even walk with walkers. Why? That 100-year person has somehow got the knowledge of how to live in consonance with the entire nature. You try that, you will have a very nice life. Everybody will die. It's not that you are going to live eternally. You will die. The body will go. All the six Shadvikaras you can't escape. But the Shadvikaras will happen very naturally. And at old age also, all the things that afflict you will greatly be controlled, or you can manage. So this respiratory system is something which is emphasized in Yoga Shastra, and which is very, very important for us to observe, know the secret, and try to, make use of it for our own health benefits. Right? So this is the respiratory system. Next is what? Apanaha means, so pranaha is the inhalation, apanaha is the exhalation, right? Removal, the waste removal, apana. And this apana refers to all waste removal, not necessarily only the air, right? It is also one of the aspects which is evacuatory in nature. Because even air, after we have absorbed everything through the respiratory system, that is to our to pranavayu, remaining air is a wastage only. It's of no use to us. So it has to be thrown out. So that function of throwing it out is taken by apana. Then vyana. Vyana is the circulatory system. The circulatory system which carries through the blood all these nutrients to various parts of the body. Again, a very, very important system. If we know the tricks, how the system works, lot of problems we can avoid. Especially, diabetic patients, they develop this, what's that called, neuropathy, diabetic neuropathy. The blood flow doesn't go to the tips of their fingers or, the feet and all that. Because of that, those parts, they lose their functionality. And over a period of time, they start decaying faster than the other parts of the body. And in fact, somebody gets, and that's why doctors advise diabetic patients to be very careful with their legs. Because if they get hurt in the leg, they may not even know that there is an injury. And that injury, because of the sugar in the blood, it will not get healed properly also. It can then develop into gangrene, and then it may even lead, in the worst case scenario, to the amputation of the leg itself. So there again, something for us to learn, how to make the circulatory system most efficient, most effective, so that the blood flow is ensured to all parts of the body. We may have to sometimes take the help of some medicines to do that, some external ointments or medicines. Ayurveda has got some oils and all that, which they prescribe for this kind of a thing. But what I'm saying is, again, something for us to pay attention to, and then use the circulatory system for the healthy living in this world, right? So, Dhyana, we can compare it to the circulatory system. And the fourth is called Samanaha. Samanaha is what? Digestive system. Again, another important system. Because biologically also, all these physiological systems which are there, they are very, very vital functions of the body. And we have to keep them in proper shape, very healthy, properly functioning, without overloading them. Because once you have overeating or eating all sorts of things which you are not supposed to eat, direct attack on your digestive system, Samanaha will go for a toss. Once Samanaha goes for a toss, everything else also will go for a toss. A person who has overeaten, and which we normally do in South Indian, this, some marriage and all that. What out of love and affection, they will feed and kill you. That's what happens. Have one more laddu. Have one more rasagulla. Nothing. I'm a sugar patient. Oh, nothing will happen. Once in a while, just have. Marriages don't come every day. Have 2 more tablets, it will be okay. Then they will go on eating. Because everybody is eating. This fellow's internally back of the mind, he wants to eat, but then he is also having some problem, it will lead to a lot of problem. Once he does all that, even he will find it difficult to breathe. So much eating he would have done that, he'll say food is up to this. This means what? All lungs and all is food only, no air. He'll find it difficult to breathe, difficult to get up from where he is eating. Legs would have become numb. All these problems. So the samana is a digestive system, which again we have to take very careful. We must see different people have got different orientation. And if we take the sastric route, different kinds of food produce different kinds of mental reactions in our mind. This many people don't understand at all. They will be reading Bhagavad Gita, but they won't understand what Bhagavan Krishna is talking about: sattvic food, rajasic food, and tamasic food. And everybody will say, oh, what is the big problem? Why can't you eat onions? Why can't you eat this? You have been eating all this all along. Now why you have stopped? So the spiritual journey, as I have been telling you, is a journey from a predominance of tamasa guna to graduating to predominance of rajoguna to graduating to predominance of sattva guna. So when you want to become, your goal of life is moksha, and for that moksha, your entire orientation has got to be aligned to the sattva guna in the nature. Then you have to choose everything, whether it is your words, whether it is your action, whether it is your food habits, whether it is your sleeping habits, everything has to become aligned to sattva guna pradhana. And when you become sattva guna pradhana, what kind of foods are sattva guna pradhana foods? Bhagavan Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita. That's why Bhagavad Gita is a fantastic manual for intelligent living. It is not that people should not eat onions or garlic. You can eat, provided you don't have sattva guna as the goal. Don't have moksha as the goal. You can do anything. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. That's what will happen. If you are happy with that, fine. In any case, out of million, only a few people are going to go through this path. Everybody doesn't become a Sachin Tendulkar or, who was that guy, that fast runner, I'm forgetting his name. Or for that matter, any person who has accomplished in his particular field, a very high eminent status. You check with those people, what sacrifices, what discipline those people have followed to reach that place. Do you mean to say that all those, the athletes and all that, they will eat pizza and this and that and all that, whatever comes? If you go to these wrestlers and all that, in the rural India and all those wrestling, they have got akhadas, what they call wrestling schools. They teach wrestling. There the food is totally prescribed. So many milk, so much eggs you have to eat, so much this and all that kind of stuff. That's a special food for wrestling. And they are not allowed to eat anything else other than the food which is prescribed there. Those people who are interested in that or whose goal in life to become a very champion wrestler, they will never ever be attracted towards anything else, all pav bhaji business and all. You try to give them pav bhaji, they will say, you keep it with you. Give me 4 glasses of milk, I will drink, they will say. And if you talk too much, they are wrestlers, you must remember. Couple of bones, They are capable of breaking. So what I'm trying to say is that this argument normally in a family and all, they will have this problem. Most people will be eating onions, and these days, olden days, they were all avoiding it. Sattva guna is not going away. So that way, everybody, and not only they eat, they justify also why onion is good for this heart and onion is good for that and all that. Why? Very good. Physiology, I mean, physically it may be good, but here, this spiritual journey is not a physical journey. Spiritual journey is an intellectual journey. It is a mental journey. It is a spiritual journey. There we have to see what is necessary for that mind to become pure, the chitta shuddhi. That is what we have to see. So this digestive system is a part of that. Because it is said, even modern, scientific community accept what you eat, you become that. It is said that, many people are aggressive because they eat this meat and things like that and all, animal products. So from that, there is a subtle element, subtle property of those food, which, feeds into your entire personality. And you become aggressive and, things like that and all. If you want a sattvic personality, eat sattvic food. That is important. And sattvic does not even include things like, this very chilly, that is chilly food, or even pickles and things like that and all. Everything moderate. Taste should be there, but don't eat for the sake of only taste. That is another problem which affects our digestive system. Anyhow, we can go on talking about it. Right. So this samana, the digestive system, which converts this raw material called food into invisible energy in our body. And we require energy for all our activities, that is said. And finally, we have got udanaha. Udanaha is a very unique system. And it functions, it doesn't have a regular function. Very rarely it functions, this udanaha. It is like an emergency exit in which it is there in the aircrafts and all, right? We don't use the emergency exit regularly. But in the case of an emergency, we have to use that exit. Similarly, this udanaha is an emergency system in our body. If there is some life-threatening things enters our body, this udanaha becomes active to throw out that life-threatening things. This is the emergency exit system. They are like these fire extinguishers, not normally used, but used in an emergency. And in some Vishnu temples and all, they have this concept. They have a door on this northern side of the deity, which is called Swargavasa, the door to heaven, entrance to heaven. That door is not opened on all days, but only on the Vaikuntha Ekadashi day, they will open that door. So that people who enter that door, the belief is that by entering that door, they can go to the heaven. So it's once in a year it is opened. Similarly, this udanaha, once in a while, this becomes active. This power of, this is not the normal evacuation power, mind you. Because this udanaha, I'll give you an example. If you eat some poisonous stuff, you vomit, right? That is udanaha. Because immediately the body reacts. In fact, death also is this udanaha. The power of the life leaving the body is udana, because once in a lifetime only it will come. After udana has acted, no more life is there. All other things are all useless. Prana, vyana and all finished. Udana has taken over, removed the life from this body itself. Why? Because continuation of life in that body is not required. So udana acts, right? So Bhagavan, Ishvara has kept this udana power in our body, right? It's an emergency power to protect and save our body and health. So any toxins which enter, poison, as I told you, which is a threat to our body, this power manifests itself and removes the toxin. Even if some foreign particle enters through our nose, we keep sneezing, right? Till that particle comes out. Udana. Because the body cannot, it's such a perfect system God has created. Nothing external can enter. And there are defense systems we all know inbuilt in the body, right? So all those, similarly, dust particles entering the eyes. What happens? Immediately the tear glands will start working. They will go on flowing, the tears will go on flowing till the dust is removed. Udana power. Once in a while only this Udana acts, as I told you. So this is the Udana power, the fifth one. Right? But some people say, even when we are very happy, tears flow from our eyes. So what is the difference? Scientists have actually analyzed these tears. And according to the scientists, the tears, composition of the tears, which comes out, which we shed due to a sorrowful and unhealthy emotion, is different from the tears, which composition of the tears which we shed when we are happy. This much research science has done into the composition of the tears itself. So for a layman, both are tears, but there is a difference in that composition of those tears, right? So this Udanaha, or we can call it a reversing function, emergency function, operates only rarely. And as I told you, it operates during death also. So all the things, in fact, when a body dies, you will see that all the things which are inside the body, they are thrown out. In fact, many times we have seen in old people, just as they near that death period, they will stop eating or eat very, very less. There is something very natural which happens. So that when the death comes, there are not too many things inside the body which need to be thrown out. But then in some cases, we have seen that when the death has occurred, many waste are just thrown out of the body because of the force of this Udana power. Everything, including the life, everything it throws out of the body. Right? And when this Udana power is acting, no food can go inside also. That is also another aspect, right? So these are the Pancha Pranas, the fivefold physiological system. So even though the author has not talked about it, we have briefly seen what these systems are. So finally, we have got two more, Manaha and Buddhi, which are called Antakarana. And as I told you in the earlier class, actually, Shastra talks about four aspects of this Antakarana: Mano, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. But here, the author talks only about two in this section. But later on, when he comes, he talks about Chitta and Ahankara also, rather. So we will see that in that context also, Chitta and Ahankara, right? So Manaha is, I'll just start it, we have probably 2-3 minutes to go, almost there. Manaha is a faculty which is called Samshaya, which is the doubting faculty. And this faculty is a very, very active faculty. And that's why we have got the phrase doubting Thomases, right? So a lot of people keep on doubting. When they see a person, whether suppose somebody is very, very nice to you, immediately doubt, why this fellow is being so nice to me? Does he have an hidden agenda? Is there something I am missing? Is he trying to cheat me by being very sweet? All these doubts will come in one's mind. So that is why mind is always, the function of the mind is to doubt. That is what the Shastra says, rather. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll continue with Mana and Buddhi in the next class. I will say the prayers. Any questions I can take. Om Purnamadav Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all.
Raghuji, as
Yes.
usual, I have a question which is just lingering, been a question of a long time.
Yes, please ask.
When you were talking about this pranic system, the prana apana, what is the significance when we do naivedyam to Bhagavan? We say pranaya swaha, apanaya swaha. What is the significance if it is related? Because I've been wondering for God many number of years. I know what the pranic system, how is it related? Could you explain, please?
Why Bhagavan, when we are eating, we do parisheshana?
Yes, I know. Yes.
What do we say? Om pranaya swaha, pranaya swaha, dhyanaya swaha, udhanaya swaha, samanaya swaha, om brahmane swaha. That's what we say?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So it is just a prayer offering of that food, because ultimately whatever we are eating or we are offering to Bhagavan as the Naivedyam, purpose of that is to keep all these 5 systems in proper healthy functioning order. So that is why in the Shastras it is said that you must not eat stale food. A food which is cooked should not be eaten after 4 hours of its cooking. You must not eat the leftover of a previous time food also. In fact, when we do Madhyanam, one of the Prayaschitta mantras that we do is Abhojyam and Uchishtam. If I have eaten, please pardon me. The papa which I have incurred, please pardon me. Abhojyam means that which is prohibited by Shastra to be eaten. And Uchishtam means the one which is left over. You should not eat. But what we do, because there is a Prayaschitta mantra when we do the Madhyanam, there is a mantra, I will eat everything and then say the mantra also. That is what people do these days. Rather. But yat uchishtam abhojyam, that sentence comes in the Madhyanam mantra. So the whole purpose of our eating food should be not taste, should be for the purposes of maintaining these 5 systems which are there. Prana, Udana, Samana, these 5 systems, keep them in healthy order, proper order. If we eat the right food, the right kind of food as prescribed in the Shastras, these will be maintained properly. And to remind us that only right in the beginning of the eating itself, we say these mantras to remind us that this food, this particle of food which I take from with my hand and put it in my mouth, let this particle go and energize the pranavayu. The second one, let it go inside and energize the apanavayu. Right? So each function we give one morsel. And then finally we come to what? Brahmane Swaha. We remember there is a Brahman inside us. Let that Brahman who is indwelling in us as Atma, let that Atma also, this self-effulgent Atma also, let this food particle go and make sure that that stay of that Atma within this body, even though it's a temporary stay, let it be a very healthy stay for that Atma. This is the this is the implication behind this.
And one more question on the same thing. You talked about sattvic food, and I have heard fermented foods are tamasic, like yogurt. Yeah. Then how are we eating yogurt, especially in the Shraddham, and we are using yogurt, right? So how does it fit in the thing? They say you have to eat sattvic food.
When you say fermented, you have to define what you mean by fermented.
That yogurt is, you do it the previous night, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that is the word you have used, fermented, right? What is yogurt converting into? That is the milk getting converted into yogurt. You have defined it as fermentation.
So
But
what is
in the
fermented?
Shastra, it is allowed that is not actually fermentation like we ferment the molasses and all that. There's a difference.
Yes, beer, whiskey.
Like
And
whiskey,
also,
like beer, all that are fermented. Whereas this one, we have started using terminology so commonly, anything and everything we say. But
so that's same thing goes for dosa. Same thing goes for dosa also.
Goes for idli, everything.
Okay.
So everything which is fermented is not prohibited. Fermentation which creates an alcoholic content in that product is prohibited. Fermentation on its own is not prohibited. We must understand these distinctions.
Okay, thank you. I did not understand. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
you. Okay.
Any fermentation, because in curd we don't have alcohol. Fermentation process certain things. When you ferment, it will, there's an alcoholic content develops in that. That Shastra prohibits.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarity, Raghuji.
No, thank you. Any more questions?
Yes, Guruji, one question.
Yes.
Like we talked about the soul, after from one body it goes to another and so on. I had a colleague of mine whose daughter, when she was about 3, 4, they were all staying in a place called Bulandshahr in Uttar Pradesh. So she used to talk about a house, some 10 houses away from where they were staying. She kept repeating. So the parents got a doubt, they verified. Everything was correct. Whatever she described about the house, rooms, everything was correct. So that means, was she talking about the previous birth? Then
Maybe
after some...
Yeah, previous or one of the previous births.
100%.
From where, otherwise a 4-year girl will know about the details of that house. You see, again, this is something which is one of the aspects of the nature where we cannot go too deep into it, but it is more like a deduction, right? If that girl has been talking about a house and which we go and we verify it to be true, then we apply our reasoning power. How did that girl come to know? Nobody can explain it other than that this must have come as a transference from one of the earlier births. That's all. I mean, it's this example you are given. I have also learned.
They used to divert our attention.
And all. But the same thing applies to so many prodigies and all we talk about. Mathematical prodigy, musical prodigy, so many prodigies we talk about. How these small children, we are in awe when we see those children. But if you know this background, you will never be in awe. It is just that God has been kind, or for some reason, that memory of the previous birth, which we don't have.
Residual memory.
Residual memory, not residual. See, the way it happens is actually all our experiences, all our births are all recorded in our Sukshma Sharira. It's all there, except that we have a problem in retrieval. Right? Because it's like, the old times we used to have the huge computer systems. Now, they are very good in storage. But how to retrieve, you must have a particular, a sequence how to retrieve. And sometimes it will take days to retrieve a data from that. I have been a banker when we had old systems and all. These days, retrieval is Google and all. You just type before even we finish. Like the spouse in the house, they will give you so many suggestions. Right? But for us, that retrieval is a big problem. Sometimes that retrieval happens during dream. Because as I told in the last class, you have certain dreams which keep recurring in your thing. And that in the dream, it looks very familiar to you. But when you wake up, you can't even remember the dream. Even if you remember the dream, you can't make any sense out of it. You are sure that in your current life you have never seen that place. But that place keeps on recurring in your dream. So these are all things. So we have that limited capacity where this retrieval of the stored data happens in dream. For some people, it happens during waking hours also. They are able to retrieve this data and then recollect. That's all. Some people, why forget previous birth? Most of us, what we have done during childhood, we don't remember when we get old. That retrieval, we must have seen somebody, because this happens to many of us. We see somebody, oh, this face looks very familiar to me. But we can't recall where we have seen that place. Then we start asking, were you in this town? Were you working in this particular place? And all. And that fellow will say, no, 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 no. But the face is very, 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 familiar to us. Why do we have that feeling? There is something which we don't understand. Something, it's all individual oriented. This is a special thing. It is, as we said, two causes: general cause and the special cause. These are all coming under the special cause. So some people are endowed with that. They have got somehow that power of retrieval gets triggered, and they are able to recall all these things.
On the other hand, if you recall this, you've got an elephantine memory.
It's also there. I had a friend who had a photographic memory. He will see one document and he will recall the absolute details, every detail of the document. Even if you ask him after 10 years, he will tell you. Fantastic photography. Once he just sees the whole thing gets recorded, he's able to recall also. Name is Srinivasan. He was working with me in Standard Chartered in the bank. Fantastic guy. Such a memory, But that could be a problem also sometimes, that kind of a memory.
Yes.
Because I know that kind of a memory has led him into a lot of problems also, but we will not go into that. But what I'm trying to tell you is, certain people are endowed with certain kinds of these faculties, but the underlying base is one thing we must remember. All our experiences get recorded, carried forward from one birth to another birth, and goes on and on and on. Sukshma Sharira, which carries this entire thing, birth after birth, perishes only at the time of pralayam. When the yuga ends, when like Kali Yuga, when it will end, all
that becomes a dead end.
Shariram will end. These memories all will go away. But Punya Papa, which we have earned for because of all the actions that we have done, not only in this but for all the previous birth also, that will get carried forward to the next round of creation also.
Post pralayam.
When the new creation happens, in fact, the new creation happens because of the Punya Papa of the Jivas, only new creation happens. Because the system has to create for the Jivas to exhaust the Punya Papa. So the Punya Papas has to be reinstated when any new Jiva comes. So that is, we will see the next topic is that Karana Sharira.
Karana Sharira.
Yeah. So Stula Shariram finishes off with this, with this one birth. The physical body goes. Because the next birth, what physical body we are going to get, it may be a different human body or any one of the 84 lakh species which Shastras talk about. It could be any one of them, right from a coronavirus to an elephant. We can get that body, right? And so physical body goes with this one birth. But the Jiva and the Sukshma Sharira continues to take different kinds of physical bodies. Sukshma Sharira continues till the end of this current round of creation, cycle of creation. There Sukshma Sharira will finish. Karana Sharira will continue beyond that, continue as long as you have the body. Only way to get rid of Karana Sharira is self-knowledge, moksha, where Karana Sharira is completely destroyed. And that is the whole aim or goal of Vedanta. To give us the knowledge how you can destroy your Karana Sharira, because unless you are able to destroy this causal body, you cannot avoid rebirth. And that is why at a higher levels of Vedanta, even earning punya is a problem. You should not earn punya. So I don't do any papa, but I am doing lot of punya karma. Means what? The punya karma will go on accumulating, and because to exhaust that, you have to keep on taking births. You may be taking a birth in as a devata and all that is fine, but that is also a birth only.
Like a balance sheet, credit and debit.
Exactly, credit and debit. So you have to make the balance sheet zero, no carried forward. That can happen according to the Upanishads only in one condition. And that condition is when you get the knowledge of your real self and you abide in that knowledge. When you get that, you become a jnani. When you become a jnani, all these three shari, this punya papas, everything is destroyed completely. They don't survive, and then you rebirth. That is the whole system which the Vedanta describes and tells us. This is how you have to follow. Otherwise, keep on being born again and again. Fine. I mean, if
Continue.
Good.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you.
My pleasure. Any more questions?
Raghu, just a small point.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So my question is, it also comes from last time's talk. So suppose, in the Sukshma Shira, you're carrying negative vasanas. So you're done bad, and then you are born into somebody else. You are carrying all those vasanas with you, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're born with all bad vasanas because you've done papa in your previous birth, how are you going to uplift yourself from that cycle? Because then it just becomes a downward spiral, isn't it? Because
you have got a free will. God has given you free will along with these past vasanas, right? Now, if you understand that these vasanas are not in tune with your right living, the living as prescribed by the Shastras, which tells you, then you have got a free will in order to neutralize those vasanas and convert them into positive vasanas during this life, so that going forward in the next life, you have a more balanced kind of a vasanas. What you have done in the past, you cannot undo it. Isn't it?
Yeah.
It is just like a boy has been failing right from first standard, second standard, every standard 2 years he will fail, right? But he comes to the 10th standard and suddenly realization comes to him that I have been failing because I have not put in the real good effort to pass the examinations. When he realizes that, he will start studying. Maybe in the initial stage, he may not get very good marks, but he may not fail. So our purpose of this life should be, everybody will have negative vasanas. What are the negative vasanas? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. That's what Shastra says. If you take all the negative aspects of our life, these are the kind of impurities that create all sorts of problems for us. So the idea is what? To neutralize those impurities and remove those impurities, not get angry, not feel jealous, not be proud of what we are. All those pride, jealousy, anger, all that we have to get rid of it. And Shastra tells that the root cause of all this is what? It is your desires. From your desires, which are binding desires. When you have a strong desire for acquiring something and then you don't get it, what is the reaction? Krodha comes, anger comes. So Shastra attacks the root. Says don't have strong desires. Have desires which are legitimate. But it should not be sort of binding desires that main tere bagair nahi ji sakta kind of a thing, Those dialogues, filmy dialogues we see, and then we get into these traps. That is what. So everybody will have this. When we are born as ajnanis, the cause of this again, Shastra traces to the lack of our knowledge about our true self. So it's a very wide topic, and we will see all these things in little details as we go forward. And of course, Tattva Bodha doesn't deal with all these aspects, in complete detail. But as I said, Tattva Bodha is only a prakarana grantha. It is only a primer kind of a thing, introductory text. Once you find Tattva Bodha to be interesting and making sense, then one will automatically want to go for more and more knowledge. And the next stage after Tattva Bodha, either you go for text like Viveka Chudamani and all that again, or Prakarana Grantha, or most people go for Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita deals with all the aspects which even you are asking in a more detailed manner. So once you have done Bhagavad Gita with full understanding of all the chapters, all the sections, once you have understood that, then the Upanishads, you go and then study the Upanishads and then understand what each of the Upanishads say. At least not all of them, maybe 5-6 Upanishads you study, you understand with the help of Shankara's Bhashyam and all that, what the Upanishads say. So this is the entire journey. So to answer your question, yes, you are born with vasanas with which you cannot do anything about it, because it's already given. What you can do is you can use your free will. If you realize that this is something which I must get rid of, I must neutralize, I must overcome, work towards it with your free will, you can do it. So there is nothing. That's why our system doesn't believe in this fatalistic argument. Oh, I am born like this, I can't be changed. That argument Vedanta will never accept. That is the argument of the people's escape route. They don't want to change, so they say I am born like this. Destiny is different than what you can do with the destiny. Destiny gives you, presents you with experiences. Whether you react or you respond makes the difference. In fact, there's a very nice story. If you guys have got 2 minutes, I will just tell that story. I don't know. I think I might have told you that also earlier. I don't remember. This guy who was a very rich person, very rich businessman, and this fellow was also a spiritually evolved guy. Now, this guy had got, a lot of money overseas and all that, big businessman. And his family used to spend a lot of time overseas and all. He was a shipping magnate. He had a lot of ships and things like that and all. I have told you this story earlier.
I don't remember.
Okay. I will then take that, and it will take 2-3 minutes. Okay. So what happened is, once he decided that let me actually sell off everything overseas and bring back all my wealth and my family back to his country. Then he decided. So he did everything. His family sailed in the ship which belongs to him, and they were coming in the seas. Then this fellow was here, and his manager came to him and he told him, sir, I have got a very bad news for you. He said, what is the news? He says, the ship which was coming, it has sunk. He said, what? Then immediately he said, so what? Then he said, sir, that is not the end of it. Actually, the ship was not insured. So we won't get any money also. And all that money which you had encashed and you are bringing your wealth to that, everything is gone. It was not insured. He said, what? Then after a minute, he said, so what? Then he said, sir, that is not the end of it. Your family which was traveling by that ship, also they have perished in that, sinking of this ship. He said, what? Then he said, so what? So the entire spiritual journey is a journey from what to so what. From a reaction to a response. That is the spiritual journey. This we have to understand. So if we take everything very seriously in our life, then we will be reacting. But if we have a knowledge that nothing is permanent, if it was to go tomorrow, it has gone today, how does it matter? Your answer will be, so what? This is what is spiritual maturity is about. And that is what all our scriptures take us to, that level of our attitude and our response. So from a reactor to a response is what the change we have to bring in our life. And that is the whole purpose of all the sadhanas that we do. It is not easy. It cannot happen overnight. Some people it may happen faster. Some people it may take a whole lifetime to do it. But unless you take the first step, you can't move forward at all. That is how we have to take it. But your point is valid. Many people use this as an excuse not to do anything. Oh, I'm destined to like this, previous, but I agree everything you say, they will say, but I can't do anything. That is where they go wrong. You can do something, Vedanta says. And we have seen people doing it also. In fact, the stories that we get from our scriptures, like the story of Valmiki, who wrote Ramayana. What was the story we are told? He was a hunter, he was this, that, and all, bad person and all that. And then Narada went to him. He could not even say Rama. Narada told him that what is this? He says it's a mara. Mara means in it's a tree, maram, right? So he says you don't say Rama, you say Mara, 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 Rama, 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 Rama. It becomes. So what he knew as Mara, which is a tree, he said you keep on taking the name of the tree, it will become a Rama's name. That is how Valmiki did his meditation on Rama. These are the stories we are told that Valmiki was a very bad person. He became such a great poet and Rama Bhakta. So these stories are all to what? For purpose of these stories is to inspire us. That we also, if we identify what is lacking in us, we can change it. We can work towards it. It's not a problem at all. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? That's all. We'll continue next Saturday. Saturday. Yeah, we'll continue. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Hari Om. Thank you very much, all of you.
Hari Om.
Thank you.
Guruji.
Thank you, Guruji.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om. Hari Om.